I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the last time you said sorry when you had nothing to apologize for. The last time you made yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. The last time you worked until you were empty, trying to earn something that was never offered freely. Now, think about where you learned that. Not the recent relationship, not the difficult friendship, not the demanding job. Go further back. Go to the first person who was supposed to love you unconditionally and didn't quite manage it. Because for a lot of people watching this right now, what you just thought of wasn't a partner, it wasn't a friend, it was a parent. And what that parent did, not out of malice in most cases, but out of their own unfaced damage, left a set of instructions in your nervous system that you have been unconsciously following ever since. Instructions about what love looks like, what you have to do to deserve it, how much of yourself you're allowed to take up, whether your needs are allowed to exist at all. When most people hear the word narcissist, they picture someone loud, aggressive, obvious, easy to name and easy to leave. But the narcissistic parent, and psychology has been studying this for decades, rarely looks like what you'd expect. Many of them are charming in public, respected in the community, capable of warmth in small doses. The wound they create isn't through cruelty you can photograph, it's through something subtler and harder to prove. A consistent, low-grade message delivered to a child over years. The message sounds different in every family, but it translates to the same thing. Your value is conditional. What you feel matters less than how you make me feel. You exist in this family primarily in relation to my needs, not your own. Dr. Craig Malkin, a clinical psychologist at Harvard Medical School, defines pathological narcissism not simply as selfishness, but as the inability to recognize and respond to another as a fully separate, real human being with needs of their own. A parent with this inability doesn't see their child as a person first. They see them as an extension, a reflection, an audience, a project. Attachment research, particularly the work of John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, shows that the first relationship a child has with a caregiver literally builds the template for every relationship that follows. The brain of an infant is wiring itself in real time based on one central question: is the person I depend on reliably available to me? If the answer is inconsistent, sometimes yes, sometimes no, never quite predictably, the brain adopts. It builds an anxious architecture, one that is always scanning for signs of rejection, always managing the relationship rather than resting in it. The child of a narcissistic parent learns something that should never have to be learned. Love is a performance, not a given. They learn it the way all children learn, not from being told, but from experience accumulated over thousands of ordinary moments. The dinner table where the conversation always returns to the parent's needs. The achievement celebrated less for the child's sake than for what it reflects on the family. The distress that goes unacknowledged unless it's convenient to acknowledge it. This is why the wound is invisible, because the family often looked fine, because there were good moments, because it wasn't that bad compared to more dramatic abuse, and yet something essential was missing, and the child grew up not knowing what to call the absence, only that they felt it. And that absence, unmourned and unnamed, follows them into every relationship they will ever have as an adult, unless something changes. Let me show you exactly how. This video is about those instructions, where they came from, what they cost you, and this is the part I most want you to stay for, what you can actually do with them now. The child grew up, physically, professionally, in almost every visible way, but the operating system that parent installed, it didn't update. It's still running. And here is what it looks like in the adult who carries it. Pattern 1. You apologize for existing. You say sorry for things that aren't your fault. You apologize before you've even assessed whether you did anything wrong, as a reflex, not a conclusion. You make yourself smaller in conversations. You hedge your opinions so that they're always somehow negotiable. You edit what you're about to say before you say it, removing the parts that might be too much. This pattern was installed by a parent who communicated, directly or indirectly, that your full self was an inconvenience, that needs were burdens, that you had to earn your place in the room rather than simply belonging in it. So you learned to preemptively shrink, to manage your footprint, to make yourself easy to love by making yourself small enough to disappear. You are not too much. You were just given instructions written by someone who couldn't handle the fullness of another person. Pattern 2. You cannot tell the difference between guilt and love. When you love someone, it often comes packaged with anxiety, a constant low-level worry that you're not doing enough, that they'll leave if you stop working at it, that your value in the relationship is contingent on what you provide, not who you are. The narcissistic parent confuses love and guilt so consistently that the child's brain literally wires these two feelings together in the same circuit. Love arrives with obligation. Obligation feels like love. In adulthood, relationships that require constant effort feel more like love than relationships that are simply safe, because ease feels unfamiliar, even suspicious. This is why people who grew up this way often feel more comfortable in difficult relationships than in peaceful ones, not because they enjoy difficulty, but because peace doesn't match the emotional template for what love is supposed to feel like. And anything that doesn't match the template gets filed under not real, not enough, about to end. Pattern 4. You over-explain, over-justify, and cannot simply say no. No is not a complete sentence for you. It arrives, if it arrives at all, wrapped in reasons, apologies, and provisions. I can't make it, but it's because of this specific thing, and I'm so sorry, and maybe we could do this other thing instead, and please don't be upset with me. The narcissistic parent rarely accepted a child's no at face value. No was a starting point for negotiation, or worse, an offense that required repair. So the child learned if you're going to say no, you'd better make it bulletproof. You'd better account for every possible objection in advance. You'd better leave no room for the person to feel something uncomfortable about your boundary, because their discomfort will become your responsibility. Saying no is an act of self-definition. It says, I exist separately from your wants. I have a self that doesn't always align with your needs. For the child who learned that their separate self was a problem, this is still, decades later, one of the most terrifying sentences they can say. Pattern 5. You don't fully trust good things when they arrive. Something good happens, a relationship that feels safe, a success you worked hard for, a genuine moment of peace. And instead of simply receiving it, some part of you waits for the condition that comes with it, waits for what it's going to cost, waits for the warmth to reveal itself as a strategy. The narcissistic parent's love was conditional and inconsistent. It arrived as warmth when it suited them and withdrew when it didn't. The child learned good things come with catches. Warmth is a prologue, not a promise. When it's too quiet, something is probably about to happen. In adulthood, unconditional kindness can feel more suspicious than demanding relationships. A partner who loves you without conditions triggers the same alert the child felt when the parent was being unusually nice, which always preceded something. This is why the person who grew up this way often feels safest when something is wrong, not because they want difficulty, but because difficulty is the emotional weather they were built to navigate. Peace feels like the calm before the storm, because that's exactly what it was in the house they grew up in. None of this is coincidence. None of this is weakness. What you just heard about yourself, those 5 patterns, they are the predictable, documented, researched outcomes of a specific kind of early childhood experience. They were mapped in clinical settings. They were replicated across populations. They are not character flaws. They are adaptations. Dr. Judith Herman's landmark work on complex trauma, the trauma that accumulates over time in relational environments rather than in single events, established that children who grow up in emotionally unpredictable households develop a set of neurological and behavioral responses that are specifically designed to manage that unpredictability. The brain rewires itself around the dominant threat. In this case, the threat was unpredictable love, and the brain's solution was hypervigilance, emotional suppression, and relentless relationship monitoring. The fawn response, a term coined by trauma therapist Pete Walker, describes the survival strategy of the child who learns that the safest response to threat is not fight, not flight, not freeze, but appease. Become what the threatening person needs. Make yourself useful. Make yourself pleasant. Make yourself small enough to be safe. This response saved you when you were a child. It was the right response for the environment you were in. The problem is that it doesn't automatically turn off when the environment changes. It follows you into adult relationships, adult workplaces, adult friendships, and applies the same strategy to people who are not a threat, because the nervous system can't tell the difference between then and now without help. Neuroscience shows us that the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, self-reflection, and the ability to pause before reacting, develops in direct relationship with the quality of early attachment. The more consistent and safe the early relationship, the more fully this system develops. The more inconsistent, the more the brain prioritizes its survival circuits over its reflective ones. Which means what you're dealing with isn't a matter of willpower. It isn't something you should have figured out sooner or worked harder to overcome. It is the predictable result of a brain that built itself in the conditions it was given. And brains, research shows, can rebuild, not to a factory setting, but to something genuinely new. That's what this last section is about. I'm not going to give you a 10-step program, because what I just described to you isn't a productivity problem. It's a relational wound, and relational wounds heal in relational ways, not in lists. But there are 3 things that psychology, real, rigorous clinical psychology, is consistent on when it comes to recovering from this particular kind of childhood, and I want to give them to you clearly. The first is naming it, not to blame, not to tell the story at every dinner table, but privately, honestly, with yourself. Naming what happened is the first act of separating from it. The child couldn't name it because the child had no framework, no language, no permission to question the environment they depended on. You do. Naming it is how you stop living inside it as if it's still the only reality available. The second is grieving what didn't happen, not what did, but what didn't. The parent who wasn't consistently there, the version of childhood that was available in theory and absent in practice, the unconditional love that was supposed to be the starting point and wasn't. This grief is not self-pity, it is accurate mourning for a real loss. And unmourned losses don't disappear. They become the lens through which every future relationship is filtered until they're grieved properly. The third is learning, slowly, imperfectly, with real support, what safe love actually feels like. Not just intellectually, in your nervous system, in your body's response to someone staying when you expected them to leave, in the experience of saying what you actually need and not being punished for it, in the moment of letting someone be kind to you without immediately analyzing what it will cost. This doesn't happen in one video, It doesn't happen in 1 year, but it genuinely begins, the moment you decide that the instructions your parent installed are not the truth about who you are or what you deserve. They are the truth about the limits of who they were, and those are two very different things. You did not grow up broken. You grew up in a system that required you to become someone other than yourself in order to survive. And you survived. That is not a small thing. That is the thing that everything else gets built on. If you recognized yourself somewhere in this video, I want to say something directly to you that I mean entirely. The fact that you're watching this, that you're asking these questions, that you're willing to look at something this uncomfortable because you want to understand yourself better. That is not the behavior of someone who is broken. That is the behavior of someone who is healing. Even if it doesn't feel that way yet. Even if today it just feels like being sad about something old. You are not the damage that was done to you. You are not the strategies you developed to survive it. You are not the patterns that formed before you were old enough to choose them. You are the person who is now, for the first time or the 100th time, choosing to look at all of that clearly. And that person deserves the same compassion you would give anyone else in this situation.